This is Julianne Condia, host of Rewritten. Thank you so much for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Bryce Burge, host of Your Soccer Passport here on Public House Media. After this episode, come join us on a trip around the soccer world as we discuss club and country every Tuesday. Stamp your soccer passport by subscribing on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your Public House Media podcasts. And thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Throughout history, the course of sports has been shaped by one thing: the fans.
From the moments you never dreamed of,
Bobby Womack has saved the USA's life in this World Cup! Paul, the runner! Loose ball! It's good! Gonzaga! The flipper still fits!
To the moments that still give you nightmares.
Behind the bag! It gets through Buckner! Here comes Knight and the Mets win it! He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl! Brady has his fifth!
through the good and the bad, fans have helped change the games we watch and the players we love.
They may not be the most logical people.
You are a factory of sadness! I'll see you Sunday.
But they know their teams better than anybody.
They'll blow in the ninth.
You may not always see them, but you know where to find them.
After all, there's nothing quite like the view from the cheap seats.
Broadcasting is part of the Public House Media Network.
Grab a chair and enjoy all there is in
The cheap seats.
Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, way up high here in the cheap seats. It is exciting times throughout the world of sports because we've got playoff races really heating up. We've got preseason NFL. We've got college basketball teams going international to do things that nobody cares about. And more importantly, John, we have basketball beef that we didn't know we needed.
Well, no. Do we really need it?
I don't know if we need it. It's that was the headline, so I was going with it.
I mean, it's there. So
it's there.
Whether we need it or not is one thing, but it's there and it's happening, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Where's the beef? We'll get to that in just a little bit. You're listening to the Cheap Seats here on the Public House Media Network, brought to you, as always, by Squadcast.fm on this Monday, August 20th, 2018. Christian Heimall, John Lauder here with you. Plenty to talk about. Why, in God's name, seriously, why are the Oakland Athletics so good right now?
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't understand what's happening. Why are the Red Sox not freaking out about Chris Sale going back to the disabled list?
Well, maybe they are, and you just don't know about it.
Maybe they are, and we just don't know. Exactly. Why do we care about, Big Blue Nation, Kentucky Wildcat basketball going somewhere that's, outside of the state of Kentucky? I don't understand. But we've got a lot to talk about here, John, and I guess we'll start with just, this is a story that should be reserved for Wednesday, for the Wild Wednesday segment, but, what's up with Jimmy Butler and Dwayne Wade? What's the issue here?
Yeah, so, this is basically for us, normal people. We don't really, live on this level of money and wealth and fame, so we don't really understand this, I guess. Yeah. But what happened was several days back, Gabrielle Union, if you don't know who that is, get out from under your rock.
So sorry.
And
if you don't know
she is married to Dwayne Wade for 4 years. And she posted a picture to Instagram in a relatively revealing bathing suit. Is that a good way to put it?
Yes. Let's put it this way. Most teenagers have never seen her in a movie because her movies, she hasn't really made any new movies in the last couple of years, has she?
She's been in some things here and there, but nothing major.
Right, but every teenage boy knows who she is at this point. So
correct.
Even though she hasn't really been in any big name movies. That's the way to put it.
So she posts this picture on Instagram, and Jimmy Butler, Wade's former teammate in Chicago, posted on the picture, "Well, damn!" with exclamation points in capital letters.
In all caps. That's awesome.
And then Wade, like a child, and also like the seagulls in Finding Nemo, posted back "mine" all in capital letters. also with an exclamation point.
Mine.
And then Jimmy Butler posted the good, the bad, and the ugly in reference to something. I'm not even really 100% sure what. And then Dwayne Wade said, put well damn in caps on my wife's photo again, and you're going to see what the good, the bad, and the ugly is like. So now everybody thinks they're feuding and they hate each other.
Issue. Right now it's an issue. Like
this is like the ultimate first world problem.
Oh, 100% ultimate first world problem. Like and so here's the best part. Like so the headline on Yahoo.com from Ben Rohrback, the NBA beef you didn't know you needed. I mean, he's right. I didn't know I needed this. I mean, I don't know if he's referring more to the beef or the picture in my life, but anyway, because I would have never seen that because I don't follow Gabrielle Union on Twitter. I actually don't have a personal Instagram, but anyway, this is hilarious. This is one of the dumbest, funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And who knows? They could legitimately, they could all be punking us. They really could. Like Jimmy Butler and Dwayne Wade could be best of friends, and they could be texting each other back and forth, going, "Dude, how funny would this be if I did this? How funny would it be if I did that?" Like,
well, to that end, they were playing cards together in Paris with Union and Carmelo Anthony when Jimmy Butler found out he was traded to the Timberwolves. And Bleacher Report, their NBA Twitter account, posted the two of them singing karaoke 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I mean, this legitimately just could be two friends who are just being goofballs on social media. Because how often have we done that? How often have you and I gone back and forth with each other, with our friends on Twitter, and just been goofballs, complete and total goofballs? It's possible. And it just gets out of proportion because they're famous as all hell.
And the other thing is, unfortunately, the NBA now, everybody's buddy-buddy, and there's no real rivalry. So I find it hard to believe that they actually hate each other. There's just no way.
I find it very hard. I mean, it's just, again, as the article said, at the point when that article was posted, it's August 17th, and we have nothing else to talk about in the NBA. So
right, exactly.
It just makes total sense. But it is kind of funny. It is, I mean, let's be honest. Like, shouldn't you, every man should be proud of his wife. Every woman should be proud of her man. And whatever it is. If you're in a homosexual relationship, you should be proud of your partner. Whatever it is. Every single human should be proud of their partner. So, I mean, if Dwayne Wade sees Jimmy Butler, and I'm sure Jimmy Butler's not the only person who commented, well, damn, or something along those lines on that Instagram, shouldn't you be like, yeah, well, damn is right. That's my girl. Like, shouldn't you feel that way? Like, I don't know.
Look, we're so below their level that we can't even really understand this. That's basically what it comes down to.
I mean, it would be really nice to have 100 Instagram followers, let alone how many Gabrielle Union has.
Right. Well, I'm sure she added a couple after that photo was posted.
I'm sure she added more than a few. You know what? I don't know this, but you know what? I'm pretty sure that would not get you more followers.
What?
If you had $2,200 of sex toys sent to your office.
That would certainly raise questions, but it would not get you more followers.
Yeah, because that's what's happening at Ohio State. This is the weirdest. This is one of the strangest.
What a mess
I've ever seen in college football. This is insane because we have gone now from, is Zach Smith a domestic abuser? Is Zach Smith a misogynistic woman beater? To Zach Smith is a complete and total degenerate.
He is.
That is what we've gone to. It's not even is he this? Is he that? No, he is, because there's an insanely scathing report out that alleges that Zach Smith had over $2,200 of personal items, including sex toys, delivered to the Ohio State Buckeyes football offices in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Not only that, but according to Courtney Smith, his ex-wife, who, by the way, is accusing him of abusing her multiple times in their relationship, says he took photos of him receiving oral sex, having sex with an Ohio State staffer in the coach's offices in 2015. This has turned into not just Ohio State portion of your career over. Your actual career is now over if you are Zach Smith.
And to add insult to injury, one photo of Smith's private parts was taken on the day the Buckeyes were honored at the White House. It shows him in the black suit he wore to the event, and another photo of his private parts includes a White House bathroom towel featuring the seal of the President of the United States.
I don't understand this.
And all of this is coming out. And by the way, Brett McMurphy, my goodness, what incredible reporting over the last few weeks. This is all coming out right before the Buckeyes were concluding their investigation, which concluded yesterday. Right. And there's still no word on exactly when they're going to release, the final thoughts, the final sort of elements of the investigation, what they came up with, because they have to almost go back to the drawing board, I feel like, with all of this garbage. I mean, what a disaster for one of the preeminent programs in all of college football and all of college athletics. I mean, this is an unbelievably epic disaster. The Big Ten, what a train wreck.
And now here's the thing. Here's what I don't get. So they completed their investigation yesterday. They're supposed to tell the Board of Trustees either this week or early next week, and then eventually we'll find out what their independent working group, found or whatever it is. I don't care how this affects Urban Meyer at this point. I really do not care.
Yeah.
It does not matter to me because you know what? At this point, it is so far gone whether or not Urban Meyer should be reprimanded for what Zach Smith has done. The question should legitimately be, how much can we demonize? How much can we get back from Zach Smith if we're Ohio State? Is there any way you can recoup some of that money that you gave him? Is there any way that you can sue him for defamation, like conduct detrimental or whatever it is? Because at this point, Zach Smith, we need to stop thinking about internal investigations and start thinking about criminal charges for Zach Smith. I have no idea if it's possible to arrest somebody for exposing yourself, for taking a picture in that way with the presidential seal. Now, it wouldn't be the first time this, presidency that sexual misconduct has been associated with the White House. But, what?
Yeah. Well, look, here's the deal. If Urban Meyer knew about all of the sexual stuff going on in the offices, he should be fired.
Yes,
period.
If okay. Urban Meyer knew about it, yes. Agreed.
Obviously he knew some stuff and or what did he know? What did he not? If he knew about this stuff, goodbye. Okay. But yeah, they've got to recoup money from Smith. They have to, because he has embarrassed the university in a way that you can't even begin to put into words. Okay. The football program is sort of the golden goose of Ohio State. Yeah. And, the golden goose is being crapped on right now. Sorry for the language, but it is. And there's no doubt in my mind that they have to, there has to be some course of action against Smith. There just has to be.
Yeah, I don't know how it happens. I don't know what happens, but, you mentioned the Big Ten, and this is not the only institution in the Big Ten that has serious issues. Again, you're in the cheap seats here on the Public House Media Network, presented by Squadcast.fm. Chris Heimall, John Lauder here with you. We've been talking about this. Don't forget to head to our Facebook page, Cheap Seats by Public House Media. We'll reveal our poll question coming up in a little bit after the break. But, John, you and I have been talking about this for a couple weeks now, not just Ohio State, but the University of Maryland and what continues to come out and the continued findings regarding their independent investigation on the death of 19-year-old offensive lineman Jordan McNair from heat stroke back in June. And more information coming out on Friday after a closed-door meeting with the University of Maryland Board of Regents, where it voted unanimously to assume authority and control over all aspects of 2 of the university-prompted investigations.
Yeah, makes sense. Rick Court, the assistant athletic director for sports performance, obviously he resigned last week. He was the one that was said to be, throwing food at kids and, making them shove Snickers into their mouths and all this other ridiculous stuff. DJ Durkin has been put on leave. He's going to be fired, obviously. Multiple staff members will be fired. I think this ends up all the way at the top, and I think the athletic director and the president will get fired too. I don't know if that's going to happen. But obviously, it's really quite a mess. McNair's parents have said that until Durkin's fired, they won't even speak with the university, and I don't blame them. And it's just, they keep talking about due process, but they do not deserve due process. I don't understand why these schools have to, stand by these coaches. They're coaches. Fire them. Goodbye.
I get it.
A kid is dead. He's dead. Fire them. Go.
Listen, I understand it, and I get it. I want them. I would love to see them fired as well. But the due process comes in the fact that there are contracts and there are millions of dollars that if the school can find a way out of not paying them, they're not going to pay them. That's where I think the due process comes in.
Okay, and that's fine, all right. But Maryland is not podunk you, okay? They can afford to eat some cash.
They can. And listen, I don't think Wallace Lowe, the president of the University of Maryland, gets fired. I don't know if Damon Evans, the athletic director, gets fired. I 101,000,000,000% believe that DJ Durkin gets fired, even though, and this is the thing we have to remember, and for those who've listened to my podcast, my individual podcast, Press Row, on Thursdays, we had Aaron Torres of The Athletic and Fox Sports Radio on this past week. You've got to remember something. As much as this is DJ Durkin's program and this is DJ Durkin's quote-unquote culture, Durkin wasn't allowed legally by NCAA rules, was not allowed to be anywhere near Jordan McNair when this thing happened. He wasn't allowed to be on campus, wasn't allowed to be at that practice. It's an individual workout in the off-season. DJ Durkin had absolutely no interaction, had no direct influence, and influence is probably the wrong word to say, in the death of Jordan McNair. That being said, his program, his culture, the report that came out a little over a week ago about how assistant coaches have been treating some of those players, bullying them, and as you mentioned, John, with the food and everything, that 1,000% is what gets DJ Durkin fired, if not just because a player under his watch and under his tenure as head coach died.
Yeah. So here's a couple of other things. I mean, you're right about that. How much would Maryland have to pay Durkin in a buyout? Roughly $6.5 million.
Nothing Maryland.
No. I mean, the contract stipulates that the school owes him 65% of what is left on his deal through the end of 2021. Who can fire Durkin? It's only Damon Evans, apparently, but I believe that Evans is going to get fired, too. You're probably right that the president won't get fired, but I can't imagine that Evans survives this as well. The whole thing is just...
It's a mess.
So, it's an utter mess.
It's a complete and total... And it's a travesty in the fact that, John, it literally... And Aaron Torres and I talked about this past week. It's a travesty that a 19-year-old is dead, and yet it took reporting 2 months after the fact about the culture at the University of Maryland for us to talk about Jordan McNair.
It's terrible.
We've been talking about Jordan McNair on June 14th, the day after he died. We should have been talking about Jordan McNair on May 30th, the day after he was admitted to the hospital with heat stroke. That's when we should have been talking about him. And the fact that, good on Maryland, I guess, for launching an independent investigation as soon as this happened. But the fact that it took us 2 months and the fact that it took ESPN doing some reporting about more than, just a player passing away, but the kind of culture that Maryland has had, that's on us. That's on us as media members that we need to shed light on those situations, and we need to talk about it a heck of a lot more. Because, when Corey Stringer died, what was that, 15 years ago? It was the front page news across the country for the Minnesota Vikings, who were god-awful at that time. Maryland will be lucky if they win 2 games in the Big Ten this year, and we didn't care about it.
Right.
And we didn't care. That's the problem. That's one of the bigger problems that I have.
You're inside the cheap seats on the Public House Media Network, presented by Squadcast.fm. John Lauder, Christian Heimall with you. Obviously, stay tuned to the cheap seats throughout this week and moving forward. We'll obviously keep you updated with all this college football disaster. Let's move on to some college basketball, Christian. We've got some preseason that no one cares about. Duke and Kentucky, amongst some other teams, have been going to the Bahamas and here and there, just having fun, killing some teams with nobody on them. And it's interesting to see where some of these teams are, especially Kentucky and Duke. They're by far the 2 best teams in the country. 1, 2 in the early, top 25s from ESPN, Fox, CBS, blah, 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 blah. Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett both looked phenomenal against Ryerson University. I went to Martin J. Ryerson Middle School. Maybe they're related in some way. And then Kentucky went to the Bahamas as well. They killed everybody. P.J. Washington, Keldon Johnson looked fantastic. Reed Travis, transfer from Stanford. Basically, these teams are both all-star teams, and if they don't make it to the Final Four, the coaches should be fired.
If only it was that easy to get rid of
I know.
Calipari.
I know. God, I'd love to see both of these guys go away. Can't stand either of them.
I could not care. We had a poll question last week: more meaningless preseason, NFL or Major League Baseball?
It's this.
College
It's
sport.
this.
It's
this is more meaningless.
This is more. I don't care. I truthfully, honest to God, do not care. Whenever I see these things like, oh, Michigan went to Italy for a preseason trip. Teams go to Canada to play. Kentucky's going to the. I do not care.
You mean you don't care that Jim Harbaugh kissed the Blarney Stone in his khaki pants?
No, I don't care. I don't. You know what I care about? Here's what I care about when it comes to Jim Harbaugh. Beat Ohio State, then I'll care.
Oh, he better be able to beat him this year.
When it comes to Kentucky, win the national championship when you're supposed to. When it comes to Duke, win the national championship when you're supposed to. I don't care about what's going on in August for college basketball. I don't,
fair.
and I love college basketball. I just don't. I cannot care. I literally just I don't care. No, I don't even want to talk about it.
Well, you know who does care? ESPN, because that about 19 articles and videos posted for each of these things.
I don't care. And you know what? And listen, I'm just gonna I like him. I've met him. But for God's sakes, John Rothstein, shut up. Just stop talking. Just stop tweeting.
Wow, calling out John Rothstein right now.
Turn your Twitter off, because I swear to God, I don't know if you saw this a couple weeks ago. He called out athletic programs for not sending radio stations to cover these preseason trips. Like, send a student radio station, he said. Who's paying for that, John? Who?
Well, in his defense, Duke and Kentucky can afford it.
In his defense, go yourself and cover it. You can pay for it.
That's okay. Fair enough.
I'm done. I can't do it.
Oh, well, we're moving on, because I don't want to anger John Rothstein. He's probably got Italian family somewhere. Well, actually, I think he's Jewish. Whatever. There's a mob, and he can make it happen. Speaking of Italy, let's move on to Cristiano Ronaldo. He made his debut. God, I can't speak correctly. Debut for Juventus this past weekend. Do you care about that? Not really? No?
I mean, kind of. You know what I really care about? And I might touch on this a little bit later. Did you see? I'll touch on it later because it's kind of interesting. But there's a soccer story that I really do care about and find really, really intriguing. Yay for Ronaldo moving on. He didn't score, did he?
He did not.
Then nope, don't care.
Okay, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, some American sports that we're sure you do care about. We'll give you the question of the week, the poll question, and we'll talk some Major League Baseball. A lot of stuff going on in the MLB. We got some NFL stuff, Mojo Monday, plenty of show left here inside the Cheap Seats on the Public House Media Network, presented by Squadcast.fm.
This is Sam Kirby, host of Cinema Stories here on Public House Media. Thank you for tuning into the following broadcast here on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Cinema Stories, where we talk about movie and TV news and reviews, and maybe, just maybe, we'll learn a little something about ourselves. If not, then maybe I made you laugh a couple of times. I don't know. New episodes air bi-weekly on Tuesdays. Thanks again for checking out the totally spectacular following broadcast here on Public House Media.
How's it going, everybody? This is Keith.
And Katie, hosts of Coffee with Keith and Katie, here on Public House Media.
Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. When you're done here, I hope you'll check out our show, Coffee with Keith and Katie,
where we talk about our lives and relationship over a cup of coffee.
A new episode airs on Facebook Live every Monday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Coffee with Keith and Katie.
Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
We're on the internet here in the Cheap Seats. Chris Heimall, John Lauder here with you. We're on the internet in a multitude of places, in case you didn't know. You can go to Apple Podcasts, you can go to Google Podcasts, Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, iHeartRadio. Always go to thephmedia.com. Get some awesome Cheap Seats gear. Or, John, I don't know if you, just over the weekend, the news. We're on Spotify now.
I know. I was very excited.
In the Cheap Seats. So just another great way you can get some awesome Monday, Wednesday, Friday sports talk from 6 completely different people every day. Well, not every day, but 2 sets of people, 3 sets of 2 people 3 days a week, if I can do math correctly. I went to school to learn how to talk. So
Good Lord, that was a disaster.
Clearly, nothing went well in my career. Anyway.
Wow. Good Lord.
We're back.
That was amazing.
Presented by Squadcast.fm, as we are every single week, every single show as well. And we've got a great poll question that has John and I completely fired up.
I'm so angry.
People going. So, John, real quick, hang on. I've got to do this. I got to do this real quick because this is the exciting part. This is what I love about baseball. Here we go. Whose stats who would you rather, player A or player B? Player A, in 174 and 2/3 innings, has a 2.11 ERA, an opponent batting average of 182, a whip of .89, and 234 strikeouts. Or player B, who in 168 innings has a 171 ERA, an opponent batting average of 205, a whip of .96, and 204 strikeouts.
What's the record of their teams?
The record of their teams is what makes this really, really intriguing. So, player A, as of his most recent start, player A, 62 and 61. Player B, 53 and 69.
Yeah, I'll take B.
So you're taking Jacob deGrom over Max Scherzer.
Yes, he should be the Cy Young. He has been the best pitcher in baseball on a team that should be in AAA.
You're not. Listen, I don't disagree with you. So Jacob deGrom, and thank goodness that the Mets have figured out a way to win his last 2 starts, because Jacob deGrom is now, after a 3-1 victory over Philadelphia on Saturday, Jacob deGrom is 8-7, which I think gives a lot more people, not that it really matters, but it gives a lot more people pause when thinking about who to vote for the Cy Young between deGrom and Scherzer. Now, listen, I'm not discounting Aaron Nola, who, by the way, a 2.24 ERA, a opponent batting average under 200, and a whip under 1. deGrom, Scherzer, and Nola, the only 3 whose whips are under 1.00, and Nola 14-3 for a Phillies team that very well could win the NL East if they figure their life out. But listen, I just don't. It's going to be very difficult for people, I think, to vote deGrom as the Cy Young when you look at Scherzer, who is leading the National League in wins, starts, innings pitched, whip, and opponent batting average and strikeouts. When he's leading in all those categories, it's very difficult to do. I believe firmly, I really do believe this, Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in the National League. However,
thank you.
Max Scherzer will win the Cy Young Award because there are people who will not be able to vote for Jacob deGrom on a losing team. There will be people who do that.
Even though Jacob deGrom, in the entire season up to this point, has given up more than 3 earned runs once.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Whereas Scherzer has done it only twice. That was a terrible argument. I was sure that it was 4 times, but then I looked back and it was only twice. Look, Scherzer is incredible. I think he should be the MVP, so give him the MVP, give deGrom the Cy Young.
But how can someone be the most valuable player if they're not the best pitcher? How can they be the best in the league if they're not the best at their position?
Baseball's the worst.
I understand that. I get that. Trust me, I understand. But here's where I think deGrom has an edge too. deGrom has walked fewer batters than Scherzer. He has given up half as many home runs as Scherzer, and he has given up less runs overall than Scherzer. That's where I think deGrom has the edge. And the fact that and listen, for those people who say, and I get that I've just made the argument 40 seconds ago, that people won't be able to vote deGrom because he plays for a team with a sub-500 record. Alex Rodriguez won the MVP on the last place Texas Rangers. It's not
thank you.
Out of the realm of possibility. It's not.
And look, Felix Hernandez had 14 wins and won the Cy Young, or 12 or something.
Yeah, I think it was like 13 and 17 or whatever he was, and won the Cy Young. I agree. I firmly think that deGrom should win the Cy Young. I don't think he will, though. So that's the question. I mean, do we want to go, for our poll question, which you can vote on at the Cheap Seats by Public House Media, who should or who will? That's the question.
Who should?
Because, all right, then who should? And I think a lot of people will vote Jacob deGrom. So head to our Facebook page. Who should win the Cy Young? Jacob deGrom in the National League. Jacob deGrom for the Mets or Max Scherzer for the Washington Nationals. Now, John, with regards to your Max Scherzer give him the MVP thing, there are a lot of guys who are probably in better place to do that. When you look at it, I mean, I look at Nolan Arenado for the Rockies, who's hitting a little over 300. I think he's third in the National League in home runs, one of the top guys in terms of RBI. Freddie Freeman is insane right now for Atlanta. Who's been and people are forgetting a lot about Freddie Freeman because Ronald Acuna is so good, and we'll touch on Acuna here shortly. But then Matt Carpenter, I understand a lot of people are talking about Matt Carpenter, and I like him, but he's had a really good last month. He hasn't had a great season, and that's why I don't think Carpenter's going to win the Cy Young or the MVP. Excuse me.
Here's my problem with everything you just said. First of all, I liken the DeGrom Scherzer thing to the NFL when you have the MVP and the Offensive Player of the Year. So Tom Brady can be the MVP and Aaron Rodgers could be the Offensive Player of the Year, let's just say. Right. So that means that Tom Brady, even though he's the MVP, wasn't the Offensive Player of the Year. So that's my argument for Scherzer can be the MVP, yet not be named the best pitcher in baseball or in the National League. Yes, he can. And I believe he is the MVP because nobody in the National League on the field, I know normally we don't do the pitcher because it's every 5 days, blah, 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 blah. I get that. But nobody in the National League has had a season like Mookie Betts has had or J.D. Martinez has had in the American League. I'm sorry, all the seasons that everybody's had thus far in the NL, relatively pedestrian, okay? Arenado, Javi Baez, Matt Carpenter, Freddie Freeman. These are seasons we've all seen before. J.D. Martinez and Mookie Betts, these seasons are a little bit more rare, okay? I mean, they're doing things that are insane right now. And that's why I think Max Scherzer's got a great chance. Nobody in the National League is really standing out. When Justin Verlander won the MVP back in whatever year that was, 2006 or I believe, nobody in the American League really stood out. And I think we're in that place here in the National League.
I'm not disagreeing with you. And the other thing I think that could help with regards to Scherzer winning winning the MVP is he legitimately, as a pitcher, could bat over 300 this year, which is very difficult to do. But I mean, it's just one of those insane things to think of that and I mean, you're not wrong. By the way, I think that was 2011 that Verlander won the Cy Young and the MVP in 2011. But it's just so difficult, I think, for people to vote a pitcher because that every fifth day. And again, you're not wrong about the Tom Brady could be the MVP, Aaron Rodgers the Offensive Player of the Year. That's because the NFL voters somehow are smarter than baseball voters. Which is why so many guys don't get into the Hall of Fame because voters are stupid and hold themselves to a higher standard even though they're they shouldn't. But it's hard for me to realistically look at it and who again our poll question is who should, not who will. Who should be the Cy Young Award winner? Jacob deGrom, hands down. Who will be? I still think it's Max Scherzer just because I think it's going to be too difficult for people to overlook. Like, what was the year Rick Porcello, 2016, when he won the Cy Young Award? I mean, in 2016, the Cy Young voting, when you look at it for the American League, 16 AL Cy Young. Rick Porcello was 22-4 with a 3.15 ERA that year. And he won by 5 votes over Justin Verlander, who was 16-9 with a better ERA, more innings pitched, a lot more strikeouts, 70 more strikeouts, a better whip, a better opponent's batting average, but that win total at 22, because it was so long since we had seen a 20-game winner, I mean, Scherzer that year was 20-7 with a 2.96 ERA, and he beat out guys like Kyle Hendricks, who had a 2.13 ERA, and John Lester had a 2.44. The wins somehow, for whatever reason, still jump people up, even though I think a pitcher's wins are more a team stat than an individual stat in Major League Baseball.
And then you go to the MLB.com website, and they've got Matt Carpenter as their leader right now for MVP, and he only has 68 runs batted in. I mean, it's...
Yeah, again, he's been hot the last month, and the Cardinals have really turned things around, so that's why. I mean,
great, but that's not enough. A month is not enough.
I agree. I personally think if you're talking MVP, I think it's Javi Baez because he's batting close to 300 and he's like second in the league in RBI. He plays 7 different positions and he's like 4th in the league in home runs. And he's the only reason the Cubs are going to win the division.
Yeah, he's 4th on the list. His .325 on-base percentage drags down his overall offensive profile. I hate baseball so much. I really do.
Listen.
God, whips and wars. It's just like, you know what? You're not better than everybody else, damn it.
Listen, I think Jason Worth is an idiot for saying, because, listen, the reason he's not in the major leagues is because he can't hit anymore. But he's got somewhat of a point in saying that the super nerds aren't ruining baseball. The influx of stats. There's too many numbers. At some point, just look on the field. Can the guy play? Yes or no? That simple. So,
let's move on because my head's about to explode.
You're in the Cheap Seats here on Public House Media, presented by Squadcast.fm. Christian Heimall with you, as well as John Lauder. Don't forget, head to our Facebook page, Cheap Seats by Public House Media. Vote on the poll question: who should, not who will. Very important here. Who should win the NL Cy Young? Jacob deGrom or Max Scherzer? I think John and I are both in agreement here that it will be Jacob, or that should be Jacob, even though I think at least it will be Max Scherzer. John,
no, I think you're right as well.
Okay,
but I'm not happy about
it. We'll take a quick break. When we return, there's another baseball story that is more baffling than John and I's argument over the the MVP and the Cy Young, and that is, what in God's name is happening by the Bay? What is going on with the Oakland Athletics? We'll touch on that in just a little bit. You're in the Cheap Seats here on the Public House Media Network, presented by Squadcast.fm.
This is Nicole Kelly, host of Loud and Proud here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Loud and Proud, where we talk about issues facing the disability community. A new show comes out weekly. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Loud and Proud. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Tiana Vanderhei here, host of the Refined Redhead podcast on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast. Once you're done with this episode, you should definitely come check out my show, the Refined Redhead podcast, where we talk to real people about relevant information in hopes of inspiring you to chase after whatever dreams you've set out to accomplish, persevering through whatever obstacles are in your way. A new show comes out bi-weekly every Tuesday, so don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of the Refined Redhead podcast. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Oh, California Love, such a great song. John Lauder, Christian Heimall with you inside the Cheap Seats on the Public House Media Network, presented by Squadcast.fm. If you want to start a podcast, you should go right to Squadcast.fm because they will help you do what we are doing right now, which is talking into a microphone and then putting it on the interwebs for other people to consume in a listening way.
And not only that, but we're not even next to each other. We're in different states. That's the important part. They make it so easy.
For all the listeners know, we could be on opposite sides of the world. Maybe I'm in China. I don't know.
We really could. I mean, I could be in, I don't know, like Tibet or something like that. Well,
that's true.
That's basically, is that China? I don't know. I don't know geography. Anyway, before I say something that's going to insult somebody, let's move on. Let's talk about what we're going to do.
Let's. So we've been talking baseball, which just makes Christian so happy. Yeah. And now we really have to talk about what has gotten to the Oakland Athletics and why are they good at baseball. I don't get it. But they've caught up to the Astros, who are supposed to win 180 games or something. And now they are right there at the top of the AL West. And Bob Melvin is doing his best Joe Girardi. He's getting, he's getting performances out of guys that I don't get it, Christian. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Bob Melvin's been amazing. And when you look at it, I mean, you look at their pitching staff over the last month, the last 30 days. Edwin Jackson, 3-1 in 6 starts with a 2.57 ERA. Trevor Cahill.
Yeah, why? Why?
Trevor Cahill, 4-0 with a 3.15 ERA. Brett Anderson, 1-1 with a 2.27. Oh well, big whoop. And then Sean Manaea, who, by the way, threw a no-hitter against the greatest team ever assembled, the Boston Red Sox, earlier this year, 2-2 with a 3.54 ERA. This pitching staff, the starting staff, has turned something around here. Trevino, who hasn't been brilliant in the bullpen, has done enough to keep them alive late in games. And then you look at Blake Trinan. He's got 8 saves in the last month.
His ERA is like 0.2 or something.
Yeah, and this is a team that when you look up and down their lineup, it doesn't scare people. You look at their lineup over the last, over the last month. I don't even know who this Michael Chapman. I don't even know.
Matt Chapman.
Yeah, Matt Chapman. Chris Davis is going to hit, potentially 40 home runs this year. Yay. Jed Lowry, Stephen Piscotty, who is like a reject from the St. Louis Cardinals. Jonathan Lucroy, who I didn't even realize he was in Oakland now. When did that happen? Like, what's going on with the Athletics?
It's crazy. Some guy named Matt Olson is second on the team with 23 home runs. It makes absolutely no sense. This team should be complete trash. And they're right now neck and neck with the Houston Astros team that is so far superior to them, it's unbelievable. It's so bizarre. The whole thing is very weird.
Yeah, and listen, and they're not doing it in tremendous ways, John. They are 7th in the American League in batting average. That's year to date and post All-Star break. You want to know the best? By the way, this might be the stat that blows your freaking mind. The team with the best overall batting average since the All-Star break. You want to take a wild guess? I just saw this.
Miami.
Nope. In the American League.
Oh, in the American League. Kansas City.
The Baltimore Orioles are batting 276.
Why?
Since the All-Star break. The Red Sox, for reference, the Red Sox are batting 262. What? What's going on? I don't understand baseball sometimes, but this is where we're at. I mean, again, the Athletics in the American League rank 7th in batting average. Pitching wise, however, though, that's where things get really interesting because for a team ERA, the Oakland Athletics since the All-Star break have a team ERA under 3. They are 19. They've got over 20 wins in the last month, and that's what's been amazing. Over 20 wins. They've got opponent batting average at roughly 220, a whip right around 1. Like, it's been the pitching staff. Pitching and defense wins championships, and somehow Bob Melvin and the Oakland Athletics and this pitching staff of Edwin Jackson, Trevor Cahill, Brett Anderson, and Sean Manaea have figured it out, and it is the weirdest thing in baseball right now.
I mean, to me, it's just like Girardi with the Yankees, except this team's worse than those Yankee teams, just getting so much out of so little. It's like what he did with the Marlins. This team should be terrible. Yep. It makes no sense at all.
And they've got to, you know what? I'll say this. They don't get a lot of credit because they play in a ballpark that, it looks like a lot of fun to go to on TV, but they get a ballpark that gets a bad rap. The Athletics have a tremendous fan base, and when you play in front of a crowd like that, it certainly helps. It certainly makes things a lot easier.
You're in the cheap seats here on the Public House Media Network. John Lauder, Christian Heimall with you. Let's move on to another story that's making plenty of news in Major League Baseball. Ronald Acuna Jr., who's the 19-year-old super wonderkind for the Atlanta Braves, was hit by Urania. Is that how you say his name?
Jose Urania, yep, on Wednesday night.
Yes, on Wednesday night. And just such a weird situation. First pitch of the game, first batter of the game, he gets, hit, hard, obviously. And the sort of justification for it was, he's been really good, so let's hit him.
Yeah.
Why is baseball so dumb about this? Why are we still doing this in 2018, throwing 100-mile-per-hour fastballs directly at people's bodies? Why?
This is something that I don't understand. This is where I don't get it. Look, I firmly believe baseball has these unwritten rules that a lot of them are dumb, a lot of them are stupid, especially in today's game where the pitcher is essentially the most protected human being. The pitcher is the quarterback because they can do absolutely no wrong. They are the most protected by everybody. Jose Urania, and listen, Jose Urena tied for the National League lead in hit batters, led the majors last year in hit batters. Is it conceivable that a 97-mile-an-hour fastball that he's trying to run in on a kid who's hit home runs in 4 straight games got a little away from him? It's conceivable. However, when you watch the video and Urena doesn't really show any cause for concern, the catcher seems like he doesn't really care, the optics of that make you think it's intentional, and that's a problem. It's not like the kid pimped a home run and stared down the Marlins, after he hit one, the day prior. That's not what he did. He's just insanely hot. He's going to win the Rookie of the Year, and he just has been on an incredible hot streak. You don't throw at the kid to knock him off that rhythm. What you do, and honestly, if you're going to throw at him to knock him off his rhythm, throw it high enough above his head where it gets his attention but doesn't actually hit him, or throw far enough behind his back that it throws him off but doesn't hit him. You pitch inside, I completely understand it. You throw inside, you throw outside. Pitching is all about upsetting a hitter's timing, and you do whatever you can with a kid like that. But Urena was 100% wrong in that situation, and my issue with it, and I talked about this with some family of mine because they don't understand how how this stuff's still going on. It still goes on because baseball has to do one of either two things. Eliminate the designated hitter so that the pitcher at least has to answer for what he's done across Major League Baseball. That's where I think the umpires were wrong. I think the umpires should have left Jose Urena in the game, and then the Braves should be completely okay throwing at him, because that's what makes this dumb, John, in my opinion. What makes it stupid is that Acuna gets hit, so the Braves aren't going to throw at Urena when he comes up in the 3rd inning. They're going to throw at whoever the Marlins' top hitter is. That's where at Real Muto. That's who they're going to throw at, which is stupid to begin with because Real Muto had nothing to do with it, even though he's the catcher and probably had something to do with it. But that's where it gets dumb. The pitcher should have to answer for what he's done. He shouldn't get tossed and sent to the locker room and then everybody can bash him on social media. He should have to stand there and wait for a 97-mile-an-hour fastball to come right at his back. And that's how you fix it. Or what you do, and I know this is far extreme, and baseball purists are going to hate me for this, treat it like steroids. The 3rd time you intentionally hit a guy, you're banned for life. That's the only way you can protect this from this stupid nonsense that we talk about every single time of the unwritten rules of hitting a guy. You have to make it written rules now. You have to do it.
Yeah, it's just so dumb. It's so, barbaric seems a little much, but it's just, it's so grade school. I don't know what the right word is. It's just dumb and I need to stop doing it. All these unwritten rules are embarrassing. They're embarrassing.
Now listen, if a guy Chase Utley goes in hard on who did he do that to with the Mets? Wilmer Flores in the playoffs? Yes. Utley deserves one right in the back. He 100%, because that's a dirty slide. That's where, and this is where I think the umpires need to understand it, and this is where maybe Joe Torre, who runs Major League Baseball's rules and all that stuff, this is where I think he needs to sit people down and say, you know what, guys, listen, talk to the umpires. We need to let these players police themselves, but also understand where our role comes in. I thought Urena should not have been tossed because, listen, the optics of it are bad. But you know what? You let the Braves retaliate. On the very first pitch, when that happens, now the Braves can't retaliate, so the Marlins get the last word. That's not okay. You let the Braves retaliate, you give the warnings, and then if something happens, you toss somebody. But, if a guy slides in cheap or a guy blows up a catcher at the plate, he should get thrown at the next pitch. It needs to be the person who committed the crime needs to be the one who gets the punishment, not, Urena hit Acuna, now the Braves are going to hit Real Muto. No, the Braves are supposed to hit Urena. That's how it's supposed to happen, in my opinion. Now, this is where it gets interesting, John, and I know you haven't heard this, so I'm excited to hear your answer here.
Oh, yes.
So, a couple of days ago, Ron Gardenhire, who might be one of the few old-school managers still left in Major League Baseball, had a couple of things to say regarding it. This is what he said after the game. He was asked after the game the other day with the Tigers. He was asked about it, and this is from the Detroit News. Gardenhire made it clear that he was speaking on it without knowing whether Acuna had showboated or tried to show up the other team after any of his home runs. He did not. Acuna did not do that, according to reports. But just going on the basic fact that a pitcher drilled a hitter on the first pitch of the game because the hitter had been hot, Gardenhire can't abide by that. Quote, "I hate that stuff. It's a nightmare. You could kill somebody. Just to open up like that, it's ridiculous. Drill a guy because he hit a home run. Try to get him out. I thought it was blatant and ridiculous. Baseball has to handle that. That's a joke, in my opinion. Your thoughts with regards to that first before I tell you what I really thought was interesting from Gardenhire.
I mean, that right there is not what I would have expected from him, and I'm glad to hear it because I would expect him to be like, yeah, hit him right in the face or, something outrageous like that. So I'm glad that he can sort of see the more common sense side of this. I'm surprised.
Here is what Ron Gardenhire had to say about what he felt Don Mattingly, what he would do if he was in Don Mattingly's shoes. Mattingly, by the way, the manager of the Marlins. Quote, I would be mad enough if I was their manager. I might start Urania tomorrow and lead him off just so they could smoke him, just because he did something so stupid. Throw at a kid like that just because he hit home runs? Come on. The kid has done nothing but play good baseball. But baseball has a way of taking care of itself. He is in the National League. Basically saying at some point, somebody in the National League, the next time the Marlins and Braves play each other, someone should absolutely smoke Urania.
Good. He should be smoked.
That I thought was the most interesting thing. A manager who has spent pretty much his entire managerial career in the American League, where you can't smoke a pitcher after he's thrown at a player, basically said, hey, Donnie Baseball, figure your life out and put Urania in the lineup so that he can get drilled.
That's crazy. Oh, Lord Baseball. Oh, brother. Real quick before we go to break, how worried are you about Chris Sale? Because you should be very worried.
I was worried when I saw it on Saturday that he was heading back to the DL for 10 games. And then I saw that it was retroactive to the 15th, so there's a possibility I could see Chris Sale when I'm in Fenway. It got me excited. Anyway, but no, I don't know. The Red Sox haven't been able to do anything wrong lately, which is so strange and so weird. But, yeah, I mean, I would definitely be concerned if you're the Red Sox, simply because if this is something that persists for another month and a half, who are you throwing in game one? Listen, Price has been great. Rick Porcello has figured something out. Brian Johnson has been serviceable. But there is nobody, and I don't care what anybody says. We talk about DeGrom or Scherzer. The most dominant pitcher in baseball is Chris Sale right now. And the Red Sox need him if they're going to advance out of the first round this year.
So, yeah, they should be worried, and if they're not, they're dumb. So it's scary.
Agreed.
Period. They should be scared, and I hope they are. You're inside the Cheap Seats on the Public House Media Network, presented by Squadcast.fm. Take a quick break. When we come back, we'll finish things up. It's Mojo Monday. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? You'll find out in a moment. Right here in the Cheap Seats on the Public House Media Network, presented by Squadcast.fm.
Hi, this is Emily.
This is Lindsay.
And this is Elizabeth, co-hosts of Beauties and Headcanons here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Once you are done with this episode, we hope you'll come check out our show, Beauties and Headcanons, where we talk nerdy to you about fandoms, fan fiction, and all pop culture for nerds that you can think of. A new show comes out every Friday.
Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Beauties and Headcanons. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Kim Meyer, the host of Choose to Rise here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Choose to Rise, where we talk about living with positive mindsets, how to increase our confidence, building our faith, and living out our life on purpose. A new show comes out via podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if you want to catch the episode live instead, stop by Public House Media around 6:45 Central Standard Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday as well. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Choose to Rise. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
One foot in front of the other.
Final segment here in the Cheap Seats on this Monday, August 20th. Chris Heimall, John Lauder here with us. As always, you guys can find us on Twitter. You can find John at JON_LAUBER. You can find me at Chris Heimall, CHRISHEIMALL. Check out the show on Facebook, Cheap Seats by Public House Media. Vote on our poll question, who should win the NL Cy Young? Jacob deGrom, who just now over the weekend got his record above 500, or Max Scherzer, who, if the Nationals can figure something out, might make the playoffs. As always, find us on Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, newly on Spotify as well, and, of course, thephmedia.com. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can pretty much find us here in the Cheap Seats. All right, John, not much to talk about with NFL preseason because, as we discussed last week, it's meaningless. But it's not meaningless when it comes to injuries, and there were a couple of big ones in week 2.
Yes. So Zach Martin went out after during Saturday's preseason game with Cincinnati in the second quarter. Not 100% sure where he is at this point, but multiple starters for the Cowboys were near the tent where he was being looked at. So obviously not a good situation there. Isaiah Wynn, the first pick of the first round for the Patriots. They had 2 first-round picks, I believe both from Georgia. I believe it was Sonny Michel and then this guy, Isaiah Wynn. He is out for the season with a torn ACL. He was going to be either their starting right tackle or their backup at left tackle. So he's out for the year. And then a couple of sort of good news things for a couple of teams in the NFL. Josh Gordon finally back with the Browns. He was away working on his mental and physical health. He'd been away since the team opened training camp. He was seeking additional counseling. Obviously, he's been a mess, but hopefully he can get himself on the right foot. And Carson Wentz, just about cleared to do 11-on-11 drills. Obviously, Nick Foles still with the Eagles, but Carson Wentz, of course, will be the starter when he's ready to go. And it looks like he will probably be ready by the start of the season. Should start 11-on-11 drills, I believe, in the next week or so.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one, obviously, listen, it sucks for Isaiah Wynn, a rookie, to be out for his entire year. The Patriots, however, the offensive line is something they need to address, especially after Nate Solder and a couple of other guys left. But they are the Patriots. They play in a weak division. They will be able to figure something out. The big one to me is Zach Martin because I know a lot of people have been picking the Giants as a trendy NFC East pick, at least for the wild card with regards to that. The Cowboys need Zach Martin because that's the only way that they're going to be relevant in the NFC East, in my opinion. Josh Gordon, I think, is interesting returning because I wonder if that's one of the reasons why Dez Bryant left Cleveland on Thursday without a contract, because they may have known that Josh Gordon was coming back.
Yeah, they knew he was coming back anyway, but yeah, that very well could be.
When so to have him paired with Jarvis Landry and all that stuff makes the Browns a little bit more dynamic, I think, because I would take Josh Gordon over Dez Bryant right now.
Of course.
So, and then the Eagles, listen, the Eagles have the best line in football right now, offensive and defense. So it's great for Carson Wentz if he can get going, considering how talented he was last year for that team, especially since Nick Foles had a little bit of a issue Thursday night in that game against the Patriots.
For sure. So let's hit to Mojo Monday here inside the Cheap Seats. You know the drill. Every Monday we give you some good or bad mojo. Christian, I will start with you.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. I'm not sure what to make of it, but I like it. I'm going to say it's positive mojo because I think it'll help continue to grow soccer in the United States. I don't know if you saw this, John, but I believe it was Thursday, La Liga, Spain's top soccer league, will become the first European league to stage a regular season match in the United States. And they're not just going to do it this year. They're going to do it for the next 15 seasons. They will play at least one La Liga match, regulation, in the United States for the next 15 years. I think that's.
I like that.
I love it. When you think about it, you'd be able to bring Real Madrid, you can bring Barcelona, Madrid, you can bring a number of other teams here to the U.S. and see the best players in the world. Will only continue to grow, I think, soccer in the United States. Now, how I can't imagine it's going to happen in the next couple of years, but it wouldn't surprise me if year 12, 13 of this 15-year deal, if El Clasico comes to the United States, although it would be an absolute uproar in Spain if that happened, but it wouldn't surprise me if it did. The money would be too hard to ignore.
For sure. And also to piggyback on that, it was announced this past week that NYCFC Academy product Giovanni Reyna, the son of former U.S. star Claudio Reyna, is going to the youth program of Borussia Dortmund in the German Bundesliga, following Christian Pulisic, who's our best player at this point. He also joined Dortmund at the same age. So again, continuing to get these U.S. players into Europe early is only going to benefit the national team. So interesting that Reyna at 15 is off to Germany.
I lost you for a second, so you just transition right into yours.
Okay. All right, Christian. So I've also got some good mojo, and it's completely unsports related. I know I've been doing a lot of non-sports related ones recently, but whatever. great profile in the Washington Post this past Friday on Jimmy Carter. It's called The Uncelebrity President. Jimmy Carter shuns riches, lives modestly in his Georgia hometown. I highly recommend you go and read this article. It's such an interesting perspective. We don't have that many living presidents left. I believe it's 5. 2 Bushes, Obama, Trump, and Carter. And he is now 94 years old. His wife, Rosalind, is 91. They've been married for 72 years. Wow. And they live in the same house that they built in 1961 before he was president. And they still go to church every Sunday. He teaches Sunday school. Did his 800th Sunday school lesson just recently. People wait outside the church the night before so that they can be in his Sunday school class. Wow. And just incredible. He's actually going to do Habitat for Humanity next month at 94 years old. We can all learn a lot from Jimmy Carter. So I highly recommend you read this article. It is well worth your time, and especially considering what we've had in the White House of late, it's a good read. Let's put it that way.
More impressive president post White House, Jimmy Carter and his Habitat for Humanity at 94, or Bush Sr. still skydiving on his birthday every year?
Both of them. Both great Americans.
Fair enough. All right, it's been a fun show, as it always is on Mondays. Don't forget you can check us out on Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or now on Spotify. You should always go to thephmedia.com, get yourself some awesome show gear. Hit us up on our Facebook page, Cheap Seats by Public House Media. Vote on the poll question, who should win the NL Cy Young? Jacob deGrom, who is absolutely lights out for a team that is god-awful and shouldn't even be in the major leagues, or Max Scherzer, who leads the National League in wins and probably still won't make the playoffs either. Head to our Facebook page, vote on that. You can follow John and I on Twitter, John at JON_LAUDER. Follow me on Twitter at CHRISHEIMALL. Been a fun show. As always, don't forget to check out Wednesday's show with Max and Keith, Friday's show with Matt and Jake. I wonder what Matt and Jake are going to talk about, since they've pretty much exhausted their NFL options. But we'll find out coming up on Friday. As always, it's been fun, and we really appreciate having you guys all the way up here in the Cheap Seats, presented every week by Squadcast.fm.